Throughout the ages, humanity has searched for answers to life's most profound questions. How do we face adversity with poise? What is the true measure of happiness? How should wealth, status, and external influence shape our sense of self-worth? These inquiries reverberate through centuries, remaining just as relevant today as they were in antiquity. Among the great thinkers who have pondered these questions, Lucius Annaeus Seneca stands as a beacon of wisdom. His writings, particularly his renowned Letters from a Stoic, offer not only philosophical insight, but practical guidance deeply resonant in the contemporary world. Stoicism, born in Hellenistic Greece and matured in imperial Rome, is a school of thought that champions virtue, rationality, and the autonomy of the soul. Seneca, as both statesman and philosopher, embodied these tenets in the midst of political turmoil and personal hardship. The enduring nature of his counsel is evident. His meditations on death, time, self-discipline, adversity, friendship, desire, mindset, and wealth provide a moral compass for individuals seeking inner stability amid the chaos of modern existence. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button to support the channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an audiobook that could change your life. Now let's begin. Enjoy. Chapter 1. Introduction to Seneca and Stoicism. The pursuit of wisdom is as ancient as humanity itself. Yet the quest for a fulfilling life demands more than mere knowledge. It seeks a philosophy that can be lived, tested, and proved resilient against adversity. Among the pantheon of ancient philosophers, Lucius Annaeus Seneca stands as both sage and survivor. His teachings etched not only in scholarship, but in the crucible of personal and political hardship. Born in Cordoba around 4 BCE and raised in Rome, Seneca was immersed in a milieu of literary brilliance, political intrigue, and philosophical ferment. His life was far from serene. A man of immense talent, Seneca was appointed tutor and advisor to the young Emperor Nero, whose later tyranny cast a long shadow over his mentor's fate. Exiled, recalled, elevated to influence, and ultimately condemned to death, Seneca's journey was marked by privilege and peril alike. This very volatility shaped Seneca's Stoicism, an approach to life rooted in serenity amid storms, courage in facing fate, and consistency in virtue despite shifting sands. Stoicism, as a school of philosophy, originated with Zeno of Citium and matured under thinkers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. Yet Seneca's writings, especially his letters, exemplify the philosophy as a living art, a guide for ordinary people grappling with suffering, desire, and mortality. Stoicism asserts that the highest good is virtue, not pleasure or possessions. Its central proposition is that external events, fortunes or misfortunes, are beyond our control, while our judgments, actions, and responses remain ours to govern. Thus, it is not the world that creates distress, but our appraisal of it. Wisdom lies in recognizing this, shaping character rather than circumstances. Seneca's Epistulae Moralis ad Lucilium, or Letters to Lucilius, represent his mature distillation of Stoic ideals. Written in the latter years of his life, these letters blend philosophical rigor with practical counsel. Seneca does not advocate aloofness. Instead, he recommends engagement with the world tempered by discernment. His approach is intimate, not pontification, but conversation. Seneca writes as a concerned friend, not as an untouchable sage. Within his letters, several themes resound with enduring force. He warns against the illusions of wealth and fame, arguing that genuine wealth is freedom from wants. He counsels against anger, describing it as a transitory madness that blinds justice and wisdom. He reflects deeply on time, the most precious and least appreciated resource, and urges a daily accounting of its use. He demystifies death, seeing in its inevitability a call to live bravely and meaningfully. Above all, he advocates for self-cultivation, to grow wiser, more moderate, more resilient. What makes Seneca relevant in the 21st century? His audience was not strangers to uncertainty or violence, nor absent the temptations of luxury and pride. Yet Seneca's counsel feels uncannily tailored to the dilemmas of modern life: stress in the workplace, consuming anger in social discourse, the chase for material abundance, or the fear of dying. These are global experiences, timeless in their recurrence, universal in their effect. Moreover, Seneca's epistemological humility, his readiness to question, reason, and admit imperfection, serves as a refreshing antidote to dogmatism and despair. Stoicism is, at its core, practical wisdom. It is not a cure-all, nor is it detached from emotion, but rather an invitation to clarify that which we can control and to release that which we cannot. It is this framework, philosophy as nourishment and shield, as friend and guide, that sets the course for this book. The chapters that follow unpack the core insights of Seneca's letters, striving to translate their Latin wisdom into living counsel for today. We explore the elevation of wisdom over the ephemeral comfort of wealth, the transformative approach to anger, and the gentle guidance through fear, loss, and adversity. Seneca's legacy, then, is not marble statues or erudite lectures, but a written presence in moments of trouble, doubt, reflection, and aspiration. His life, replete with loss and betrayal, did not embitter him, but sharpened his passion for teaching others. His Stoicism is not detachment, but engagement, a means of being fully human, with dignity intact, in a perpetually unpredictable world. As you delve into the chapters ahead, remember that Seneca wrote not from the heights of abstraction, but from the depths of lived experience. His counsel is rooted in the recognition that philosophy is for living, not for dying. That a good life must be built day by day, choice by choice. By meeting Seneca's wisdom with honest reflection, the reader is poised to discover not only the theories of Stoicism, but also the art of living well. Chapter 2: The Art of Living, Wisdom Over Wealth. In the relentless tide of modern ambition, the equation of wealth with happiness has become ubiquitous. Society heralds the accumulation of riches as the pinnacle of success and personal fulfillment. Yet it is here that Seneca's voice emerges as both counterpoint and warning, a reminder that the art of living cannot be measured in coins or possessions, but in wisdom cultivated and virtues embodied. Seneca's letters abound with admonitions against dependency on material comforts. For him, the pursuit of wisdom, self-mastery, and inner tranquility far outweighs the acquisition of physical goods. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor, he writes, subverting the conventional narrative that happiness is found through abundance. Seneca's challenge to his contemporaries and to us is to re-examine the nature of wealth itself. The world entrusts virtue to fortune, but Seneca entrusts fortune to virtue. Wealth, in his philosophy, is not condemned outright, but repositioned as neutral, a resource whose value is dictated by the character of the possessor, not by its quantity. No man is poor who has enough. No man is rich who cannot be content, Seneca observes, advocating for a sufficiency that is internally assessed rather than externally imposed. Why is the allure of wealth so pervasive? Seneca contends that the root lies in desire, a restlessness stemming from the mistaken belief that external goods can cure internal emptiness. The craving for more is endless, breeding anxiety and dissatisfaction. By contrast, the wisdom that comes from understanding the limits of desire generates tranquility. The art of living, therefore, is not found in indulgence, but in self-restraint and discernment. Seneca illustrates these truths through poignant anecdotes. He reminds Lucilius, his friend and correspondent, of those who amass fortunes only to become prisoners of their own possessions. Seneca describes how restless ostentation breeds envy and fear, while simplicity nurtures freedom and joy. In a memorable passage, he recalls his own voluntary periods of poverty to test his resilience and to teach his soul that deprivation is not ruin, but a teacher of fortitude. Yet Seneca is not a zealot against wealth. He acknowledges its usefulness and even enjoys certain comforts. The vital distinction he makes is between use and abuse, need and greed. Wealth may be rightly pursued for noble aims, generosity, security, the alleviation of suffering. But when wealth becomes an idol, usurping character and distorting values, it leads inexorably to slavery. To cultivate the art of living, Seneca recommends regular reflection upon the brevity and contingency of life. He urges his readers to ask themselves, what do I truly need? In simplifying desires, we make room for gratitude and generosity. The Stoic is advised to be prepared for reversals, knowing that fortune's wheel may turn at any moment. It is prudent to anchor happiness in what cannot be taken away: wisdom, virtue, and friendship. Seneca further links wisdom with self-sufficiency. He suggests that the highest good is not isolation, but the ability to stand unshaken amid changing fortunes. A wise man is content with himself, he writes, yet he willingly participates in the service of others. Here, self-sufficiency does not mean aloofness, but stability, the capacity to engage meaningfully with the world without being ruled by it. Contemplating the implications of Seneca's teaching for contemporary life, one sees its transformative power. The race for wealth often leads to burnout, isolation, and estrangement. The wisdom of moderation and voluntary simplicity stands as an antidote, fostering well-being and community. The appreciation of what is essential, clarity of mind, kindness of heart, resilience of spirit, becomes the true measure of success. This approach does not demand asceticism, but discernment. It calls for a deliberate examination of one's needs, ambitions, and attachments. Seneca's letters encourage periodic withdrawal from luxury, spending time with less to appreciate more. He likens wisdom to a well-tuned instrument. Without harmony, the notes of life become discordant. His challenge is therefore not merely ethical, but practical. How might we align our choices with the pursuit of the good? The art of living, as envisioned by Seneca, is thus a daily discipline. It is nurtured by reflection, tested by adversity, and expressed in generous action. Wealth, properly understood, is not a goal, but a tool. Wisdom, by contrast, is the compass by which we steer our lives, through fortune and misfortune alike. In conclusion, Seneca offers a philosophy that is not anti-wealth, but pro-wisdom. He asks for a reordering of priorities, a commitment to growing in understanding, compassion, and courage. In these virtues, the art of living finds its deepest expression, and the tranquility that eludes so many is finally made accessible. Chapter 3: Managing Anger, Keeping Calm in Chaos. Anger, for Seneca, is a force both destructive and blinding, a tempest that corrodes judgment, sense, and harmony. Amid the provocations of contemporary life, anger remains an ever-present challenge. From interpersonal disputes, social media outrage, and workplace stress, the triggers are myriad and relentless. Seneca's insights on anger, as articulated in his letters and essays, offer a disciplined approach for keeping calm in chaos. Seneca begins by diagnosing anger as a form of madness, a temporary suspension of reason where passion usurps control. Unlike sadness, which immobilizes, anger energizes, but in a direction that frequently undermines both the self and others. In On Anger, Seneca writes, "Anger, if not controlled, is frequently more hurtful than the injury that provokes it. The task, therefore, is not suppression, but transformation, learning to respond rather than react. The roots of anger," Seneca contends, lie in faulty expectations and wounded pride. We become angry when the world does not conform to our desires, when others disappoint or affront us. Seneca's solution is twofold. First, to examine and adjust expectations, and second, to cultivate humility. When we accept the imperfection of others and the unpredictability of events, the sting of offense diminishes. Central to Seneca's teaching is the cultivation of self-awareness. He urges his audience to recognize the onset of anger, to catch it in its infancy before it flares uncontrollably. This requires vigilance. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. By pausing before responding, by reflecting before acting, we allow reason to regain its seat, diminishing the sway of emotion. Seneca further advises the use of perspective. He counsels Lucilius to weigh the consequences of angry outbursts, social discord, remorse, escalation of conflict. By visualizing the aftermath of anger, we can short-circuit its allure. Seneca suggests substituting empathy for indignation. Let us put ourselves in the position of those we blame, he writes. By understanding the frailties of others, we soften our judgments and extend forgiveness more readily. A practical technique recommended by Seneca is the employment of reminders and rituals. He advises keeping in mind the brevity of life, the uncertainty of tomorrow, and the insignificance of many provocations. He describes periodic self-dialogue, asking oneself what genuine harm has been done and whether vengeance or outrage will repair it. These rituals, performed with sincerity, build resilience over time. Seneca is not naive about the sources of anger, nor does he advocate for passivity in the face of injustice. There are situations where indignation is legitimate, where harm is inflicted, rights are trampled, or cruelty prevails. Seneca's counsel is that response, even in such cases, must be governed by reason, not impulsive wrath. Justice demands discernment, courage, and calm, not the blinding force of rage. In the context of family and close relationships, Seneca's wisdom is especially relevant. Arguments and frustrations often arise with those we love most. Here he urges gentleness. Harsh words, once uttered, cannot be recalled. Wounds inflicted in anger leave lasting scars. Seneca's model is patient correction, timely silence, and unconditional goodwill. By fostering a climate of respect and understanding, homes and friendships become sanctuaries rather than battlegrounds. The professional world, too, is rife with opportunities for anger. Competitive environments, high stakes, and divergent personalities all heighten tension. Seneca recommends clear communication and generous interpretation, assuming good intentions, giving others the benefit of doubt, and addressing grievances directly but calmly. In doing so, he maintains, we safeguard both effectiveness and dignity. Seneca also warns against the dangers of collective anger, mob mentality, group resentment, and the amplification of outrage in crowds. He notes the ease with which communal passions can be inflamed, leading to destructive actions that individuals would never undertake alone. The antidote, he writes, is the anchoring of each person in reason and responsibility. Finally, Seneca reflects on the aftermath of anger. The remorse that follows uncontrolled outbursts is universally familiar. Seneca encourages reconciliation, making amends, extending apologies, and rebuilding trust. The wise person, he asserts, seeks to resolve conflict quickly, lest bitterness take root. To manage anger in chaotic times, Seneca's Stoic approach offers both philosophy and method. It is an invitation to slow down, reflect, and engage deliberately with provocations. Seneca's remedies: self-awareness, perspective, humility, patience, and empathy are as relevant now as ever, providing a toolkit for emotional mastery and harmonious living. In conclusion, the challenge of anger is perennial, but the possibility of keeping calm endures. Seneca's teachings dispel the myth that anger is inevitable or uncontrollable. Through practice, vigilance, and philosophical reflection, we may cultivate a disposition of steadiness, a bulwark against the storms that inevitably arise. The tranquility gained is not mere absence of conflict, but the presence of courage, wisdom, and grace. Chapter 4. The Power of Perspective. What truly matters. Perspective, Seneca asserts, is the master key to philosophical resilience. It is not events themselves, but our judgments about them that determine distress or serenity. In an age beset by distractions, comparisons, and constant change, the power to discern what truly matters is perhaps the most vital skill for living well. Seneca's letters unfold a consistent theme: the relativity of fortune, the variability of circumstance, and the need to focus on the enduring rather than the ephemeral. "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," he writes, drawing a sharp distinction between actual woes and anxieties born from anticipation. Perspective, for Seneca, is the disciplined art of distinguishing the important from the trivial. This skill begins with the recognition of transience. Seneca invites his correspondent to contemplate the brevity of life, the passing of pleasures and pains, and the futility of investing soul and hope in things perishable. He counseled Lucilius, "What matters are those things which are stable, not those which are fleeting." Fame, wealth, public acclaim, these, Seneca observes, evaporate faster than morning dew. To put matters in perspective, Seneca recommends frequent reflection on mortality, the inevitability and impartiality of death. By confronting the endpoint of existence, we clarify our values and orient our actions. The wise person, Seneca maintains, lives each day as if it were both the first and last, appreciating the everyday, yet prepared for its conclusion. "He who knows how to live," writes Seneca, "knows how to die." Seneca proposes deliberate distancing from societal judgments. He was well aware of the power of public opinion, the lure of status, and the burden of expectations. In his own life, subject to slander and political intrigue, Seneca chose to place more weight on inner worth than on external reputation. He encourages Lucilius to do the same, to measure success by the content of character, not the applause of the mob. This does not mean disengagement from the world, but discernment within it. Seneca advocates selective attention, choosing what to care about and whom to emulate. He recommends the cultivation of friendships rooted in virtue rather than utility or flattery. In this way, relationships become sources of strength rather than anxiety. Seneca's wisdom is especially resonant in dilemmas of comparison and envy. He notes how easy it is to covet the lives and fortunes of others, forgetting the hidden burdens they bear. Perspective corrects the illusion. Behind every facade of abundance or happiness, there is struggle, loss, and doubt. Seneca's Stoic posture is to celebrate the good fortune of others while remaining content in one's own path. A critical test of perspective occurs in moments of adversity. Seneca argues that suffering, properly viewed, is not a curse but a teacher, a forge for resilience and creativity. "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity," Seneca writes, "for he is not permitted to prove himself. Through hardship, values are clarified and strength is revealed." Seneca also advocates moderation in joy and sadness. Excessive elation over fortune breeds vulnerability to heartbreak. Excessive sorrow in adversity drains life of color. Balance, achieved through perspective, allows the wise individual to enjoy blessings without attachment and to endure losses without despair. In practical terms, Seneca recommends daily rituals of reflection, questioning the day's events, naming what truly mattered, and letting go of trivial irritations. He describes the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, imagining setbacks before they occur, preparing emotionally for reversals, and fortifying one's soul against disappointment. Perspective is a shield against anxiety and regret. By focusing on what can be controlled, one's intentions, actions, and responses, rather than on what is accidental, we reclaim agency. Seneca insists that the ultimate measure of a moment is whether it contributes to wisdom and virtue. The relevance of Seneca's teaching for contemporary life is unmistakable. The modern world invites endless comparison, stirs the craving for more, and magnifies trivial grievances. Perspective, as a philosophical method, allows one to step back, assess, and realign. It's not mere detachment, but engagement on one's own terms, choosing what matters, investing in what endures. To master the power of perspective is to reclaim freedom, freedom from the tyranny of circumstance, from the folly of comparison, from the exhaustion of endless pursuit. Seneca's invitation is to become architects of our attention, curators of our values and stewards of our souls. In summary, what truly matters, Seneca teaches, is not the quantity of possessions or accolades, but the quality of reflection, the depth of character, and the steadiness of virtue. Those who cultivate perspective through reflection, humility, and courage find a richness that does not fade, a tranquility that withstands every storm. Chapter 5. On Death and the Fear of It. The contemplation of death is among the oldest concerns of philosophy. For Seneca, the awareness of mortality is not an instrument of terror, but a means of liberation. The modern individual, much like the citizen of imperial Rome, is incessantly beset by reminders of death, from public tragedies to personal anxieties. Yet our prevailing culture often shuns the subject, relegating it to the margins of conversation and thought. Seneca dares us to look directly into the face of death, to analyze its nature and role in our lives, and thereby dissipate the paralyzing fear that so often accompanies it. Seneca's foundational assertion is simple: death is neither a good nor an evil. It is a natural phenomenon. To repudiate its inevitability is to live in perpetual conflict with existence itself. He writes, "Death is the release and end of all pains." Attaching undue value to life's duration rather than its quality creates a spiritual distortion, one in which the fear of losing life eclipses the capacity to truly live. By contrast, the wise person, aware of life's brevity, does not cling to an indefinite future, but cherishes the present moment with heightened clarity. The fear of death stems most acutely from the unknown. Seneca guides us to reflect on existence before our birth, an infinite expanse which did not trouble us, and encourages us to recognize that death is a similar return to non-sensation and tranquility. What evil is there in returning to the point whence you came? That is the state before we were born. In shifting our perspective from fear to acceptance, anxiety transforms into serenity. The implications are profound. When we disentangle ourselves from the dread of an impending end, we unlock the potential to live purposefully and authentically. For Seneca, the acceptance of death is intimately intertwined with the cultivation of virtue. He asserts that the wise person prepares for death not by morbid fascination, but by refining their character, seeking justice, and performing good acts without undue attachment to outcomes. The practice of meditatio mortis, regularly pondering one's own mortality, serves not to darken the spirit, but to illumine it. By harmonizing our actions and desires with the knowledge that life is finite, we are spurred to greater integrity and urgency. How does this translate into modern experience? In the contemporary age, death is often veiled by euphemism, medical technology, and cultural denial. Yet our existential anxiety remains, manifesting in chronic stress, frantic pursuit of pleasure, and avoidance of reflection. Seneca's wisdom commands that we reverse this trend, to face our fears directly, to converse openly about mortality, and to consider what legacy our choices will leave behind. Furthermore, Seneca contends that readiness for death is the true measure of freedom. The individual who does not fear death or loss is emancipated from the shackles of anxiety that bind so many individuals in today's achievement-oriented society. This mindset fosters courage in the face of adversity, propels bold decisions, and tempers our dependence on transient success. Thus, the Stoic approach to death is not a cold resignation, but a vibrant affirmation of life's immense value. It is an invitation to prioritize significance over duration and action over procrastination. In integrating these insights, modern readers may find a new freedom, the possibility to live each day with lucidity, gratitude, and without the oppressive weight of fear. Seneca's enduring message echoes. To contemplate death is paradoxically to become fully alive. Chapter 6. Time as the most precious resource. Among the myriad resources that modern society heralds, wealth, fame, knowledge, none is more universally treasured and yet more carelessly spent than time. Seneca's acute observations in Letters from a Stoic offer a radical reframing. Time is the only commodity that once squandered cannot be regained. While technology enthralls us with promises of efficiency and control, each day slips quietly away, unrepeatable and irreplaceable. The ancient philosopher's admonition bears repeating, "It is not that we have a short space of time, but that we waste much of it." In our era, the frenetic pace of life often fosters an illusion that time itself can be hoarded or stretched. Calendars overflow, tasks accumulate, distractions proliferate, yet Seneca insists that the wise person views time as sacred, measuring days not by their number but by their purpose and fulfillment. He argues, life is long if you know how to use it. This principle, so simple yet so elusive, forms the core of all Stoic reflections on time. How, then, does one avoid the squandering of this most precious resource? Seneca counsels a deliberate, conscious approach. First, ascertain what matters most. Then dedicate your hours accordingly. To live stoically is to invest in activities that cultivate virtue, knowledge, and meaningful relationships, rather than ephemeral pleasures and routine obligations. This requires both self-awareness and the discipline to resist the seductive pull of the trivial. The pursuit of productivity in the modern age often masks a deeper spiritual quandary. Are we living purposefully or merely filling our days? Seneca's writing offers critical guidance in evaluating the true value of our commitments. For him, the ideal life is marked not by the accumulation of achievements alone, but by intentionality, a careful selection and devotion to what is truly worthwhile. Moreover, the importance of reflection cannot be overemphasized. Seneca's practice of daily meditation and gratitude is as relevant now as it was in antiquity. By surveying our use of time, discerning patterns of waste, and celebrating moments of authentic engagement, we learn to recalibrate our priorities. The quest is not to maximize hours, but to endow them with meaning and satisfaction. Seneca denounces procrastination as one of the great thieves of life. The temptation to defer tasks and defer living itself robs us of opportunities for growth and fulfillment. To succumb to someday thinking is to surrender control, drift aimlessly, and forfeit even the present. In Seneca's own words, while we are postponing, life speeds by. The antidote is boldness, a willingness to act, to commit, and to shape each day as if it were a microcosm of one's entire existence. Time, in Seneca's philosophy, is not merely duration. It is a moral enterprise. Waste stems not only from idle distraction, but from the pursuit of activities out of conformity rather than conviction. He challenges us to examine our lives. What do we choose to pursue? What do we accept as obligations? Where do we invest our attention and care? Seneca's wisdom urges us to break free from routine and make every moment a vessel of integrity and intention. Ultimately, the Stoic conception of time is both sobering and emancipatory. To reckon with its finitude is to be galvanized into action and appreciation. Seneca's letters, timeless in their appeal, provide the scaffolding for a life of purpose, one which, though circumscribed by fate, brims with possibility. In an age deprived by distraction and haste, to heed Seneca's counsel is to reclaim the present, to live each day not as preparation, but as fulfillment. Chapter 7. The Virtue of Self-Discipline. In the landscape of Stoic teaching, the virtue of self-discipline emerges as the architect of character and the bulwark against vice. Seneca extols self-discipline not merely as a tool for personal achievement, but as the cornerstone of inner harmony and moral clarity. The modern reader, beset by temptations and distractions at every turn, finds in Seneca's reflections an enduring template for reclaiming agency and cultivating virtue. Self-discipline, for Seneca, is the practice of sovereignty over one's impulses, choices, and emotions. No man is free who is not master of himself, he declares. Our age glorifies autonomy and freedom, yet paradoxically encourages the unchecked pursuit of pleasure. The resultant malaise, addiction, anxiety, and lost purpose signals the urgent necessity of restraint and intention. Seneca's conception of discipline is multifaceted. It begins with moderation, the art of discerning what is necessary from what is excessive. Through moderation, one achieves equilibrium, resisting both indulgence and abstinence in their extremes. The disciplined person is neither ascetic nor libertine, but guided by reason, aware that true happiness stems not from abundance, but from sufficiency. Beyond moderation lies constancy, the steadfast commitment to principle, even amid adversity or temptation. In a world of shifting mores and competing enticements, constancy guards the spirit, enabling individuals to act not according to whim, but according to value. Seneca urges the reader to convene daily introspection, to monitor the alignment between intention and action, and to correct deviations with dignity. Emotional mastery is a further domain of self-discipline. We often believe ourselves at the mercy of feelings, as though anger, fear, or desire are external forces. Seneca refutes this notion. He upholds apatheia, the state of serene detachment from passions, as essential for reasoned judgment. This does not entail emotional numbness, but rather the capacity to respond rather than react, to choose one's conduct consciously, unclouded by transient moods. In contemporary life, self-discipline is frequently misconstrued as self-denial, an arduous suppression of innate drives. Seneca disagrees. Discipline is formative, not punitive. It is the art of nurturing the best within oneself, fostering growth through challenge and reflection. It extends to daily routines, such as study, work, diet, and relationships, and to the governance of one's thoughts and words. Seneca's advice is practical and accessible. He recommends setting attainable goals, both short and long-term, and pursuing them with quiet persistence. Each small act of discipline fortifies the soul, providing evidence of one's power to choose wisely. By celebrating incremental progress rather than perfect achievement, the disciplined person cultivates self-respect and independence. Social pressures today can complicate the task of discipline. The lure of conformity, the critique of ambition, the temptation to postpone what is difficult, all undermine resolve. Seneca's remedy is twofold: the cultivation of solitude and the embrace of noble examples. By periodically withdrawing from the barrage of opinions, one regains clarity and conviction. By studying the lives of the virtuous, one draws inspiration and guidance. In summary, self-discipline in Seneca's philosophy is not an end in itself, but a path to the highest good, wisdom, freedom, and virtue. It liberates the individual from enslavement to desire and circumstance, enabling a life of purpose and tranquility. For the contemporary seeker, the challenge and promise of discipline are as vital as ever. In meeting this challenge, we may find not only mastery over ourselves, but the fulfillment of our deepest aspirations. Chapter 8. Handling Adversity with Grace. Adversity, that relentless companion of every human journey, lies at the heart of Stoic inquiry. Seneca's tenure as a philosopher-statesman exposed him to the full spectrum of trials, from political intrigue and personal betrayal to illness and exile. Far from succumbing to bitterness or despair, Seneca mastered the art of facing hardship not merely with endurance, but with grace, a disposition that transforms suffering into strength and vulnerability into wisdom. Seneca's framework for adversity is uncompromising. Suffering is neither unique nor terminal, but a universal condition that must be transmuted into growth. Difficulties strengthen the mind, he writes, as labor does the body. This conviction stands in stark opposition to the cultural prescripts of avoidance and complaint. Seneca invites us to view adversity not as a curse to be shunned, but as a crucible in which virtue is refined. At the core of Stoic resilience lies the principle of acceptance. Seneca does not advocate fatalism, an apathetic surrender to circumstance, but lucidity, the capacity to distinguish what is within our control from what is not. He asserts, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By resisting the impulse to catastrophize and instead scrutinizing challenges with reason, we alleviate unnecessary anguish and foster practical solutions. The transformation of adversity into grace hinges upon perspective. Seneca recommends the practice of premeditatio malorum, foreshadowing potential difficulties, rehearsing one's response, and thereby neutralizing their psychological impact. This mental rehearsal empowers the individual to face real crises with equanimity and resourcefulness, rather than panic or resentment. Emotional fortitude, too, is essential. Seneca acknowledges the force of pain, loss, and disappointment, but cautions against their domination. He touts the noble virtues of patience and forgiveness, urging us to respond to injury not with vengeance, but with understanding. To rage against fate is to augment one's suffering. To receive adversity with serenity is to assert one's freedom. In Senecan thought, grace flourishes where resistance yields to acceptance and reactivity is replaced by thoughtful restraint. Adversity serves as the proving ground for integrity. Seneca instructs, the greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. External setbacks may threaten comfort and status, but the virtues of courage, wisdom, and dignity remain immune to external vicissitude. Adversity demands self-reliance, a commitment to preserve internal values even as external circumstances deteriorate. In the modern context, adversity manifests in diverse forms: economic instability, health crises, emotional turmoil, and global uncertainty. The Stoic approach does not trivialize these challenges, nor does it foster passivity. Instead, it inspires proactive engagement, drawing upon inner strength and support networks, seeking solutions where possible, and learning from each trial. As Seneca reminds us, every difficulty is an invitation to test and expand the limits of our character. Grace in adversity also encompasses compassion. Seneca's letters speak of fellowship, mutual support, and the wisdom of extending patience to others in pain. His outreach to his friends and students was imbued with encouragement, reminding them that no suffering is truly solitary. In adversity, he advises, let us cultivate empathy for ourselves and for those who share our burdens. Ultimately, handling adversity with grace is not a gift, but a discipline, ripened through deliberate practice. It is the union of strength and softness, assertion and surrender. For Seneca, the trials of life are the canvas upon which virtue is painted. To endure with patience, to respond with wisdom, and to prevail with dignity, this is the highest realization of the Stoic spirit. Chapter 9. The role of friendship in a Stoic life. Friendship, in Seneca's philosophy, is not a mere social convenience, but a profound moral relationship, essential to the flourishing of the individual and the harmony of the community. The 5th chapter of Seneca's letters illuminates the conditions, responsibilities, and rewards that elevate friendship from casual acquaintance to spiritual kinship. For those navigating the complexities of contemporary relationships, his ancient wisdom provides a reassuring and relevant guide. Seneca begins by distinguishing true friendship from fleeting companionship. The former is rooted in virtue, moral excellence, and shared values, rather than utility or pleasure. While acquaintances may vanish with changing circumstances, authentic friendship persists through adversity and change, nourished by mutual respect and trust. Seneca writes, A friend is another self, underscoring the intimacy and loyalty that characterize this bond. The Stoic conception of friendship is reciprocal and ennobling. Friends inspire each other toward higher principles, serve as mirrors for self-examination, and offer counsel with honesty and kindness. Seneca cautions, however, against the uncritical embrace of all who seek our company. Discernment is imperative, for the character of those we associate with inevitably shapes our own. Associate with people who are likely to improve you, he advises, and admit those whom you can improve. Trust is the cornerstone of Senecan friendship. In a world fraught with deception, rivalry, and ambiguity, the assurance of steadfast allies enables one to face trials, disclose vulnerabilities, and share joy without apprehension. Seneca elucidates, once you have made a friend, trust him completely. The integrity of the relationship lies in total candor, unmarred by suspicion or calculation. Moreover, friendship for Seneca is neither possession nor transaction, but a voluntary and joyful exchange of goodwill. Gifts, favors, and support are given not with expectation, but with heartfelt generosity, seeking the flourishing of the beloved. The friendship endures, he argues, even in separation and absence, bound by an inward tether of affection that does not fray with distance. Conflict is inevitable, but not antithetical to friendship. When disagreement arises, Seneca advises the exercise of patience, forgiveness, and dialogue. Rather than allowing pride or injury to sever the bond, the Stoic friend approaches discord as an occasion for growth and understanding, thereby strengthening the relationship. Seneca maintains that genuine friendship is proven not in moments of ease, but amid difficulties and demands. In contemporary society, where social networks are vast but often superficial, the teachings of Seneca invite a renewed pursuit of depth and sincerity. The proliferation of virtual connections and transient interactions rarely provides the anchorage that true friendship requires. To cultivate Senecan friendship is to invest in a select circle, prioritizing quality over quantity and fostering shared commitment to virtue and growth. Seneca also warns against the dangers of dependency and possessiveness. Friendship is not an escape from solitude, but a supplement to it. Each individual must first develop inner stability and character to be an asset to others. An authentic friend is not a crutch, but a companion on the journey toward wisdom. Finally, Seneca's vision of friendship transcends personal benefit, modeling a vision of community and shared purpose. In times of hardship and loss, friends are the bulwark against despair. In moments of triumph, they are the source of shared joy. The Stoic life, though marked by self-sufficiency, is not solitary. It is enriched through mutual support and love. To summarize, the role of friendship in a Stoic life is both foundational and transformative. It is a relationship marked by trust, virtue, generosity, and resilience, an alliance that elevates each participant toward greater wisdom and fulfillment. Seneca's letters remind us that in forging such bonds, we connect not only with others, but with the highest possibilities of ourselves. Chapter 10. Desire and Contentment. Avoiding excess. The human experience is perpetually marked by longing, a restless search for fulfillment that, left unchecked, can breed discontent and undermine our peace. Seneca, writing in an era characterized by both material abundance and moral uncertainty, recognized the destructive potential of unchecked desire. He cautioned that excess, whether of wealth, pleasure, or recognition, seldom delivers satisfaction. Rather, it multiplies anxieties and perpetuates a cycle of craving. In examining desire, Seneca distinguishes between necessities and luxuries. Bread, water, shelter, these constitute basic needs. All else, he posits, are embellishments that often serve to distract and trouble the soul. True contentment, Seneca asserts, arises not from abundance, but from sufficiency. The paradox is clear. the pursuit of more frequently leaves us feeling less. Modern life, saturated with consumerist temptations, mirrors this ancient struggle. Advertising thrives by manufacturing desire, convincing us that happiness is but one purchase away. Yet as we acquire more, the satisfaction derived from each acquisition diminishes and a void remains. Seneca's antidote to this predicament is radical. Cultivate self-restraint. Practice gratitude for what you have and place limits upon ephemeral wants, he writes. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more who is poor. Richness, therefore, lies in reducing desire, not in augmenting possessions. To avoid excess is not to court austerity for its own sake, but to free oneself from the tyranny of never enough. By moderating our cravings, we reclaim agency over our happiness and make peace with the present moment. Living a life of contentment demands vigilance. Seneca encourages us to perform regular audits of our desires, distinguishing genuine need from manufactured want. In moments of longing, we ought to pause and inquire, will this bring lasting fulfillment, or is it merely a transitory pleasure? Often the latter proves true. By exercising such discernment, we foster inner harmony and resist the gravitational pull of excess. Moreover, the cultivation of contentment has profound moral implications. A mind at peace with what is sufficient is less likely to engage in envy, rivalry, or greed. Societies marked by rampant desire become arenas of competition and comparison, fracturing relationships and eroding collective well-being. Seneca, ever the observer of public virtue, issues a warning. Unmanaged longing breeds not only personal distress, but social discord. He suggests practical exercises. Spend time in deliberate simplicity, abstaining from luxuries at intervals. Reflect upon the lives of those who with little maintain happiness and dignity. In doing so, we resharpen our appreciation for the ordinary and rediscover joy in the present. Today, the lesson endures. To avoid excess is to pursue a steady, sustainable satisfaction. It is to favor depth over breadth and substance over novelty. Seneca's wisdom advocates for a measured, intentional existence, wherein the boundaries of desire are firmly and consciously drawn. This discipline is not deprivation, but liberation, a return to oneself and a recalibration of what it means to live well. In sum, desire must be tamed lest it become master. Contentment is cultivated, not found. By heeding Seneca's counsel and moderating excess, we not only safeguard our happiness, but also fortify our character against the storms that arise from unfulfilled longing. The quest, as he so beautifully invites, is to be rich not in possessions, but in peace. Chapter 10. The Stoic Mindset. Inner freedom over external control. The Stoic pursuit is anchored in a profound dichotomy, the distinction between what lies within our control and what rests beyond it. Seneca, echoing the fundamental tenets of Stoicism, urges us to invest energy only in what we can influence, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes, while accepting the vast domain of external events as indifferent. At the core of this mindset is the cultivation of inner freedom. External circumstances, fortune, fame, suffering, or praise are inherently unstable. They shift with the tides of chance and the whims of fate. The Stoic therefore seeks serenity not by mastering the world, but by mastering oneself. This inward focus becomes the bedrock upon which resilience, patience, and genuine happiness are built. Seneca's wisdom challenges readers to reframe adversity. What appears as misfortune is, to the Stoic mind, an opportunity to exercise virtue, courage, endurance, wisdom. He writes, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Our interpretation of events rather than the events themselves determines our emotional landscape." Thus, by exercising rational judgment and emotional discipline, we cultivate equanimity amidst chaos. Practically, this philosophy demands frequent reflection. When faced with distress, frustration, or anger, Seneca prompts us to inquire, is this within my control? If not, to relinquish concern is an act of self-care, not indifference. If yes, then we must act conscientiously, guided by reason and moral purpose. In the modern era, the proliferation of external pressures, professional demands, societal expectations, digital noise, threatens to erode our sense of agency. The Stoic remedy is to construct a sanctuary within, a place where our values, principles, and mindset form the unshakable foundation of identity. By prioritizing character over circumstance, we reclaim autonomy in an unpredictable world. Seneca frequently invokes the metaphor of the fortress. He imagines the soul as a citadel, impregnable against the assaults of fortune, jealousy, and calamity. The walls are built not of stone, but of reasoned conviction and disciplined thought. Those who dwell within are free, even as the world rages without. This inner freedom is not apathy towards external affairs, but a strategic acceptance. The Stoic mind engages with the world, but does not permit the world to govern its core disposition. Such autonomy enables effective action, unclouded by anxiety or desperation. The Stoic meets challenges with grace and resourcefulness. To cultivate this mindset, Seneca recommends daily reflection and journaling, the examination of one's reactions, and the deliberate shaping of values. Mindfulness, in essence, becomes a Stoic practice, not merely the observation of thought, but the alignment of judgment with virtue. The implications for personal growth are vast. In surrendering the illusion of control over everything, we paradoxically gain mastery of ourselves. This liberation from anxiety, envy, and regret bestows enduring tranquility. Seneca's message is clear. The true sovereign does not command armies or hoards riches, but one who governs themselves. As we move through life's uncertainties, the Stoic mindset equips us to remain steadfast, compassionate, and free, drawing strength from within, regardless of what unfolds without. Chapter 12. Wealth, Poverty, and the Illusions of Status. Seneca's reflections on wealth and poverty are both piercing and compassionate. Living amidst the immense opulence of imperial Rome, he witnessed how status and riches, pursued with feverish zeal, yielded not satisfaction, but greater vulnerability. The quest for status, Seneca observes, is fraught with illusion. It lures us into endless comparison and distracts us from authentic happiness. Wealth, by the Stoic account, is neither inherently good nor evil. It becomes a blessing or curse, depending on how it is regarded and employed. Seneca warns that riches, when idolized, corrupt character and breed anxiety. Poverty, conversely, is feared not for discomfort, but for perceived shame, the erosion of social standing. Both extremes are subject to misconception. Neither bestows virtue nor diminishes worth. Seneca counsels a detached appreciation of material things. Possessions should serve, not rule, the individual. He writes, "It is the mind that makes us rich or poor." Wealth should be wielded as a tool for generosity and security, never as a measure of value. Excess breeds arrogance or anxiety, while scarcity, if accepted with dignity, can forge resilience and wise frugality. Central to Seneca's critique is the tendency to equate status with superiority. The rich presume excellence, the poor suffer stigma. But the true worth of a person, Seneca insists, resides in character, not in coins or property. The illusions of status foment jealousy, rivalry, and self-doubt, undermining the possibility of genuine friendship and community. Modern society perpetuates these same illusions. Social media amplifies the spectacle of wealth, promoting images of luxury and success that fuel covetousness and insecurity. The constant measurement of self against others corrodes gratitude and distorts self-assessment. Seneca's advice is to look within, admire not the trappings of fortune, but the virtues of the heart. In practical terms, Seneca proposes exercises in voluntary poverty. By temporarily relinquishing comforts, we train the soul to accept deprivation without fear. Such practices illuminate the insignificance of material loss and anchor happiness in inner resources. By embracing simplicity, we inoculate against the shocks of fortune and cultivate a durable self-sufficiency. Moreover, Seneca urges generosity. The rich, he claims, ought to give freely, transforming wealth from a potential vice into a source of communal benefit. Conversely, the poor, in accepting their state without resentment, display a rare strength. Ultimately, the Stoic approach to wealth and poverty dissolves the illusions of status. It calls for a life grounded in virtue, humility, and reason. By evaluating people on the quality of their character, rather than the quantity of their possessions, we foster genuine connection and alleviate the unnecessary burdens of envy and pride. Seneca's challenge is enduring. As we wrestle with questions of ambition, material aspiration, and personal worth, his wisdom urges us to look beyond illusion, to reclaim dignity and simplicity, and to harvest contentment from within. Chapter 13. Facing criticism and insults with equanimity. Criticism and insult are recurrent features of social life. Whether among friends or adversaries, in public forums or private interactions, the sting of censure can disrupt our peace and provoke defensive or retaliatory impulses. Seneca, whose public prominence made him a frequent target, advocated the cultivation of equanimity in response to disparagement. For Seneca, the opinion of others is a shifting, unreliable measure of self-worth. The wise, he urges, do not anchor themselves to external praise or blame, but root their identity in character and virtue. Relying on the approval of the crowd is precarious. It submits one's happiness to the whimsy of others and breeds emotional instability. Insult, Seneca argues, reveals more about the speaker than the recipient. Those who deride or condemn often project their own insecurities, ambitions, or envy. Responding with anger or bitterness returns power to the insulter. Meeting criticism with dignity retains agency and demonstrates moral maturity. The measure of our growth lies not in the absence of criticism, but in our response to it. Seneca counsels several practices for meeting criticism. First, examine whether the content of the censure holds true. Honest self-reflection, though sometimes uncomfortable, can yield invaluable insight and opportunity for growth. If the criticism is valid, accept it with gratitude. If not, dismiss it without malice. Second, he advocates detachment. The wise temper their emotional responses, viewing insults as passing gusts rather than enduring afflictions. By cultivating indifference to the opinions of those who pursue ridicule, we safeguard our tranquility. Third, Seneca recommends compassion. Recognize that those who inflict insult are themselves often disturbed or frustrated. Responding with magnanimity, either by ignoring the slight or returning kindness, breaks the cycle of hostility and affirms strength. Modern life, accentuated by online platforms and global connectivity, magnifies opportunities for criticism. Public figures, professionals, and even private individuals must navigate a landscape rife with scrutiny. Seneca's wisdom is timeless. Fortify your sense of self not in popularity, but in integrity. Equanimity in the face of insult is not mere stoic resignation. It is an active discipline. Through daily reflection, self-examination, and the fostering of compassionate boundaries, one learns to withstand the storms of censure and maintain dignity amid provocation. Seneca concludes, "No one can injure you unless you allow it. The ultimate liberation lies in granting no one the power to disturb your peace." By practicing equanimity, we cultivate resilience, embody virtue, and become unassailable in spirit, even when assailed by words. Chapter 14. On Ambition and Fame. Choosing the right goals. Ambition, often celebrated as a driver of progress and achievement, occupies a complex role in Seneca's philosophy. While he acknowledges its potential to inspire excellence and purposeful action, He warns against the unexamined pursuit of fame and renown. The relentless chase for distinction can ensnare the soul, diverting energy from lasting fulfillment and promoting internal conflict. Seneca distinguishes between worthy and vain ambition. To strive for personal growth or to contribute to the common good are noble ambitions, aligned with the cultivation of virtue. In contrast, ambition aimed solely at recognition, power, or approval breeds instability and dissatisfaction. The craving for fame, Seneca observes, is a poor exchange for peace. He interrogates the substance behind public accolades. Fame is contingent, ephemeral, a product of circumstance and the fluctuating moods of the crowd. The pursuit of external validation is an endless race. Each achievement merely raises the stakes, drawing the individual deeper into anxiety and distraction. The wise, Seneca posits, choose goals that reflect enduring values. Personal integrity, compassion, wisdom, these are prizes immune to the whims of fortune or the fickleness of reputation. By anchoring ambition in virtue, we transform aspiration into a vehicle for self-transcendence rather than self-aggrandizement. Practical guidance emerges from Seneca's letters. When setting goals, one ought to consult reason and conscience. Will this pursuit foster growth, enrich community, or strengthen character? Is the cost of achievement compatible with ethical responsibility? Seneca urges the reader to resist crowd mentality, to think independently, and to shape ambition in concert with authentic values. The architecture of modern ambition often centers on visibility, followers, accolades, professional ascent. Yet in this relentless climb, many lose sight of personal well-being, relationships, and moral compass. Seneca's wisdom serves as a corrective. Aspire with purpose, not with vanity. He advocates detachment from outcomes. The Stoic aspires, but accepts whatever fortune delivers. The journey, not the recognition, is the domain of ethical endeavor. By disentangling self-worth from external achievement, we safeguard tranquility and diminish vulnerability to disappointment. Moreover, Seneca encourages humility. Great accomplishments should inspire gratitude and service, not arrogance. To be celebrated is to hold responsibility for positive influence, notalisance for pride. The truly wise pursue greatness not for applause, but for the enrichment of life. Choosing the right goals means consulting the soul before the crowd. It means defining success according to internal measures, harmonious with values and conscience. Seneca's challenge is enduring. Live not for the fleeting glow of fame, but for the lasting warmth of virtue. In closing, the Stoic path invites us to re-evaluate the nature and direction of our ambitions. By seeking what is good, rather than what is merely popular or visible, we redeem aspiration and render it a source of peace rather than anxiety. Chapter 15. Dealing with uncertainty and change. Life is an ever-shifting landscape. Uncertainty is its constant companion. Seneca, attuned to the unpredictability of existence, counsels acceptance of change and the cultivation of resilience amid uncertainty. He recognizes that human plans are forever subject to alteration, and that wisdom consists in preparing the mind for both fortune and adversity. Stoic philosophy teaches that change is not an enemy, but a natural force. Seasons turn, circumstances alter, relationships evolve. Resistance to change breeds bitterness and suffering. Acceptance liberates the soul and enables adaptation. Seneca invites us to anticipate the unexpected without dread and to meet new circumstances with equanimity. The fear of uncertainty often stems from attachment to comfort, routine, or predictability. Yet, as Seneca writes, fate leads the willing, drags the unwilling. To be dragged by change is to suffer unnecessarily. To be led is to partake in a harmonious dance with life's variability. The art is to prepare, not to predict. To be steadfast, not rigid. Practical resilience requires a flexible mindset. Seneca recommends the exercise of negative visualization. Regularly contemplate the loss or alteration of cherished things so that their eventual change or disappearance does not undermine tranquility. This is not pessimism, but an inoculation against shock, a method for welcoming life's movements with grace. Growth, Seneca asserts, is often born from adversity. Unforeseen challenges, disappointments, and losses can strengthen virtue if met with courage and reflection. The wise embrace change, extracting lessons and opportunities from disruption rather than lamenting the past. Modern life accelerates the pace of change. Technological revolutions, shifting social norms, and economic uncertainties. These shifts generate anxiety and fear. Seneca's advice is to anchor identity in values, not circumstances. Self-worth and peace derive from stable internal resources, not transient external situations. Moreover, the wise prepare for uncertainty by cultivating gratitude and presence. By honoring the moment and appreciating what is now, we lessen attachment and fortify resilience against future upheavals. Seneca says, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy. Waiting for stability delays living. Acceptance enables it." Finally, Seneca encourages the practice of adaptability. Where change occurs, respond with creativity and flexibility rather than resistance. By viewing uncertainty as an opportunity for renewal, we align with the natural current of existence and manifest wisdom through action. In summary, the art of dealing with uncertainty and change is the cultivation of a robust, flexible mindset, one that accepts the inevitability of change and prepares for it with courage and equanimity. Seneca's lessons guide us toward serenity, not by eradicating uncertainty, but by teaching us to live gracefully within its embrace. Chapter 16, Simplicity and Moderation as Paths to Happiness. In a society driven by more wealth, more possessions, more experiences, the notion of simplicity and moderation may appear antiquated, even unattainable. Yet it is precisely in this climate of abundance that Seneca's wisdom finds its greatest relevance. Simplicity and moderation are not tools for deprivation, but lenses through which true contentment and fulfillment emerge. Seneca's life was a paradox. He possessed immense wealth, political influence, and access to luxury. Yet his admonitions against excess were uncompromising. In his letters, he extolled the virtues of restraint, urging us to see that happiness is not achieved by the multiplication of desires, but by their diminution. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor, he wrote, encapsulating the heart of Stoic thought on happiness. The path to happiness, according to Seneca, is found in liberation from unnecessary wants. When we strip life down to its essentials, we remove the shackles of anxiety and longing that often plague the modern mind. The relentless pursuit of pleasure and possessions breeds dissatisfaction. Every attainment births new cravings, trapping us in a cycle of perpetual yearning. Simplicity interrupts this cycle, not by impoverishing us, but by teaching us to treasure what already exists. Moderation, too, is a guiding principle. Rather than eschewing all joy, Seneca urges measured indulgence, enjoyment that does not tip into excess or dependency. This is not about ascetic torture, but about mastery of self. The Stoic sage enjoys a glass of wine, a gathering with friends, even material comforts, but always with awareness, always within the bounds of balance. Modern psychology increasingly validates Seneca's ancient insights. Studies reveal that increased wealth and comfort do not necessarily predict greater happiness. Instead, those who practice moderation, who set limits on consumption and seek moments of simplicity, report higher levels of life satisfaction. Material abundance, while comforting, often carries the burden of anxiety, the fear of loss, the stress of maintenance, and the never-ending quest for more. Simplicity is, at its core, an act of clarity. It allows us to perceive what is genuine and essential amidst the noise. When life is uncluttered, relationships deepen, creativity flourishes, and moments of serenity multiply. Moderation guards against extremes and burnout, nurturing a steadiness that is both rare and desirable. Seneca's vision for happiness is revolutionary, not because it is complex, but because it is brave. It counsels us to confront our cravings, to question what is truly necessary, and to discover joy in sufficiency rather than abundance. This is not mere abstraction. It is a path paved with deliberate actions. The deliberate reduction of possessions, simplification of routines, and cultivation of gratitude for what is already present are acts of Stoic courage. In practice, cultivating simplicity means regularly evaluating the sources of our desires. It means asking, what do I truly need? And does this bring lasting fulfillment? Moderation involves setting thoughtful boundaries on work, consumption, social interaction, and honoring moments of pause and reflection. Seneca's call to simplicity and moderation is neither gloomy nor austere. It is a call to embrace a life unburdened, a happiness unchained from external circumstance. In its essence, it is a summons to live fully and joyously, content with less, awake to more. Through simplicity and moderation, the door to lasting happiness swings open. Behind it lies the serenity, purpose, and presence that have eluded so many in the pursuit of more. Chapter 17, Cultivating Gratitude and Mindfulness. Within the intricate web of Seneca's thoughts, gratitude and mindfulness emerge as indispensable virtues, pillars that stabilize the edifice of a tranquil life. These practices, though ancient in conception, have become vital remedies for the pervasive dissatisfaction and distraction that afflict modern existence. Seneca understood gratitude not as a fleeting emotion, but as a cultivated disposition, a conscious choice to recognize and cherish the wealth of blessings often obscured by routine and expectation. To be grateful is to shift the focus from what is absent to what is present, from longing to appreciation. We often complain of the few things we lack, wrote Seneca, without recognizing the multitude we possess. This orientation reshapes the mind, engendering contentment and resistance to envy. Gratitude, in Seneca's philosophy, is inseparable from mindfulness. The Stoic sage practices presence, anchoring the spirit in each moment and refusing to be swept away by the eddies of past regrets or future anxieties. Mindfulness is both observational and participatory. It asks us to notice, to engage, and to accept reality undistorted by prejudice or desire. Modern neuroscience and psychology reaffirm what Seneca preached. Grateful individuals are happier, more resilient, and less prone to depression. Mindfulness, likewise, emerges as a potent buffer against stress, enhancing the quality of relationships and elevating everyday experience. To cultivate gratitude, Seneca urges daily reflection. He advocates that each evening one should survey the day, seeking occasion for thankfulness, whether in kindness received, challenges overcome, or simple pleasures enjoyed. This ritual shifts the axis of attention, transforming the ordinary into the miraculous. Similarly, mindfulness is nurtured through conscious practice. Seneca recommends periodic withdrawal, not abandonment of life, but moments of solitude wherein the mind resets, disentangles from distraction, and gains perspective. Nature, art, or simple breath can serve as anchors for attention, reconnecting us with the immediacy and richness of existence. In practical terms, the cultivation of gratitude and mindfulness involves creating intentional pauses throughout the day. Before meals, after significant events, or in moments of adversity, we may ask ourselves, what is here to appreciate? How am I experiencing this moment? Over time, such inquiries rewire habitual responses, fostering equanimity and generosity. Seneca's wisdom contrasts with the frenzy of acquisition and achievement. In a world conditioned to chronicle lacks and measure success by external markers, gratitude and mindfulness restore agency and purpose. They teach us that the fullness of life is not postponed until some future attainment, but discovered in the depth of present being, ultimately. The integration of these practices is not a passive acceptance of fate, but an active engagement with possibility. Through gratitude, we honor life's gifts. Through mindfulness, we inhabit its reality. The Stoic path is not marked by resignation, but by engagement, seeking meaning, cultivating presence, and transforming even adversity into an occasion for appreciation. Seneca reminds us that happiness is not the prize at the end of striving, but the reward for living attentively and thankfully. By practicing gratitude and mindfulness, we not only elevate our own lives, but also contribute to the well-being of those around us. In their quiet power, these virtues forge a resilience that endures, a sustainable joy, and an open-heartedness that dignifies all experience. Chapter 18, Ethical Leadership, Stoicism in Action. Leadership, in Seneca's Stoic framework, is not an accident of position, but a deliberate exercise of character. The ethical leader is distinguished not by authority, but by integrity, by the capacity to enact values, maintain poise under pressure, and inspire virtue in others. In an age when power is often divorced from moral responsibility, Seneca's vision of ethical leadership remains both subversive and essential. Seneca's own life, marked by proximity to the epicenter of Roman authority, offers a study in the complexities of power. He served as advisor to emperors, navigated perilous political waters, and endured both favor and exile. Yet throughout these vicissitudes, he maintained that the true leader is servant to his principles, master of his passions. Ethical leadership, according to the Stoics, begins with self-governance. Before commanding others, one must master one's own impulses. Seneca admonished against the dangers of unchecked ambition, ego, and anger. A leader who cannot restrain their own passions is unfit to guide others. Thus, daily reflection, self-scrutiny, and cultivation of virtue become prerequisites for worthy leadership. Beyond the self, the ethical leader is called to justice and fairness. Seneca writes, "He who does good to others does good to himself." Acts of generosity, honest counsel, and transparent decision-making reinforce the emotional and moral fabric of communities. Leadership is thus conceived as a form of stewardship, in which the welfare of others is the foremost criterion. Seneca's insights resonate in contemporary contexts. The crisis of leadership in modern institutions, governments, corporations, families, often stems from a deficit of moral vision. Authority without virtue devolves into manipulation, corruption, or apathy. The Stoic leader, by contrast, integrates wisdom and courage, making choices not for expedience, but for enduring good. The practice of ethical leadership in action demands continual vigilance. Seneca recommends making time for solitude and reflection, for it is in quiet moments that decisions are weighed and values reaffirmed. He also advocates surrounding oneself with wise and honest advisors, recognizing that humility and openness strengthen leadership more than pride. Furthermore, Stoic leaders are distinguished by their equanimity in crisis. Seneca observed that adversity is the crucible in which true character is proven. The ethical leader does not dissolve into panic or despair, but embodies steadiness, offering reassurance and decisive guidance. This does not mean suppressing emotion, but channeling it towards constructive ends. In practical terms, ethical leadership rooted in Stoicism entails leading by example, embodying honesty and respect, delegating responsibly, recognizing the strengths and dignity of others, acknowledging errors, embracing accountability, and learning from failure, prioritizing the common welfare above personal gain, maintaining humility in success and resilience in adversity. Seneca's letters abound with exhortations for leaders to cultivate kindness and wisdom, to listen deeply, and to guide with both firmness and compassion. These are not merely moral platitudes, but strategic imperatives for building trust, unity, and effectiveness in any collective endeavor. Ultimately, ethical leadership as envisioned by Seneca is a form of service. It is the practice of nurturing environments where virtue can flourish, justice can be enacted, and individuals are empowered to realize their highest potentials. In an era hungry for principled guidance, the Stoic leader stands as a model, not of perfection, but of persistent moral striving. By integrating Stoic principles into leadership, individuals and organizations can navigate complexity with clarity, withstand adversity with grace, and inspire transformation rooted in shared values. Seneca's wisdom endures as a mandate to lead not only by power, but by the active, unwavering commitment to ethical action. Chapter 19. Daily Practices for a Stoic Life. Stoicism, at its heart, is a philosophy of action, a body of wisdom meant not for contemplation alone, but for the crucible of daily living. Seneca's letters continually urge us to translate principle into practice, to enact virtue in the rhythms and routines of everyday life. The journey toward a Stoic existence begins with intentionality. Seneca writes, "He who lives as he teaches, teaches by living." Every moment is an opportunity for mindfulness, for alignment between belief and behavior. Therefore, daily practices are not mere rituals, but the scaffolding upon which a life of meaning is built. Morning reflection and preparation. Seneca suggests that each day be greeted not with haste, but with pause. Before the onslaught of duties and distractions, a brief period of reflection establishes intent. One may ask, what virtues shall I cultivate today? What challenges might I face? And how will I respond with wisdom? This practice primes the mind, preparing it to meet adversity with steadiness rather than surprise. Mindful awareness. Throughout the day, Stoicism advocates continuous attention to the quality of one's thoughts and actions. Seneca emphasizes watching over our impulses, remaining vigilant against rash judgments and emotional upheaval. Throughout the day, the Stoic regularly checks in with themselves, quietly asking, is this action aligned with virtue? Is my response motivated by reason or by passion? Intentional pauses and retreats. In a relentlessly busy world, periods of withdrawal are vital. Seneca recommends short breaks for silence, solitude, or nature, spaces where the mind can reset, untangle from distraction, and return to clarity. Even a few moments of deep breathing or observation can restore equanimity and refocus the will. Evening examination and gratitude. The day concludes as it began, with reflection. Seneca urges a systematic review of one's actions and thoughts, not as an exercise in self-condemnation, but as an occasion for gentle correction and appreciation. What did I do well? Where did I falter? What can I learn? This process nurtures accountability and facilitates growth. Journaling and self-appraisal. Many Stoics, including Seneca, valued the act of writing, recording experiences, insights, and aspirations. Journaling offers structure to self-examination, providing tangible evidence of progress and areas for improvement. It also serves as a repository of gratitude, memorializing moments of joy, resilience, or wisdom, cultivation of virtues through deliberate action. Seneca taught that virtue is not an abstract ideal, but the sum of daily choices. Courage, moderation, wisdom, and justice are practiced through small acts, telling the truth when it is inconvenient, restraining anger, helping a stranger, or standing firm in adversity. Each choice, however trifling, shapes character, integration of Stoic maxims and reminders drawn from Seneca's epistles, short phrases or sayings, can be kept visible as guides throughout the day. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it, serves as one such admonition to intentional living. Community and dialogue. The Stoic life is not lived in isolation. Seneca encourages engagement with wise companions, friends, mentors, or community members who share a commitment to virtue. Dialogue not only refines understanding, but offers support in moments of struggle. Adopting these daily practices embeds Stoicism into the fabric of life, transforming philosophy from distant ideal to living reality. Over time, the habits of reflection, mindfulness, and virtue cultivate resilience, clarity, and serenity, attributes that weather storms and brighten ordinary days. Seneca's counsel is clear. Greatness does not consist in grand gestures, but in the steady accumulation of small, deliberate acts. The Stoic life is not attained overnight, but grown patiently, one mindful day at a time. Chapter 20. Applying Seneca today, living with purpose and serenity. As the modern world oscillates between rapid change and existential questioning, the wisdom of Seneca offers not only comfort but actionable guidance for discovering purpose and attaining serenity. Seneca did not envision philosophy as a sterile discipline. Instead, he articulated a living tradition, one we can adapt to the challenges of our era. Sentimentality about the ancients must be set aside. The pressing question is, how can Seneca's insights be applied in our lives today? The answer lies in seeing philosophy as both a compass and a toolkit, a means for orienting ourselves toward meaningful activity, harmonious relationships, and enduring peace of mind. Living with purpose, as Seneca conceives it, is the deliberate selection of worthy aims, followed by virtuous, focused action. He cautions against drifting, allowing circumstance or impulse to dictate direction. Instead, every individual is called to define what matters deeply: values, projects, relationships, or causes that confer significance. Purposeful living begins with self-inquiry. Seneca suggests we ask, to what end do I labor? Whose approval do I seek? What legacy do I hope to leave? Through such questioning, priorities are clarified and distractions relinquished. The Stoic is not scattered but centered, able to pursue chosen aims with both vigor and restraint. Modern life, with its endless options and digital distractions, can dilute focus and breed existential anxiety. By anchoring oneself in a clear purpose derived from established values, we regain coherence. Activities are assessed not for external validation, but for alignment with inner conviction, attaining serenity. For Seneca is not the avoidance of trouble, but the cultivation of steadfastness amid difficulty. The world will always present uncertainty and adversity. The challenge is to preserve the tranquility of mind regardless of circumstance. The Stoic achieves serenity through acceptance, recognizing the limits of control and relinquishing futile striving. Seneca instructs that while external events may be unpredictable, our responses are ours to govern. Emotional agitation arises when we resist reality. Peace ensues when we adapt and focus on what can be changed. Recognizing impermanence is also key. Seneca often reminds us that all possessions, status, and experiences are transient. Anxiety subsides when we internalize this truth, not as defeat, but liberation, enabling us to cherish what exists without clinging or fear. Concrete applications. Applying Seneca's wisdom today entails practical adjustments, defining personal values and goals in writing, revisiting them regularly, engaging in daily reflection, assessing progress toward purpose, accepting setbacks and adapting, rather than succumbing to frustration, practicing gratitude for small joys and relationships, monitoring desires, keeping them proportional and manageable, investing energy in meaningful projects, not compulsive activities. Purpose and serenity are not destinations, but disciplines. Seneca's strength lies in guiding us toward lives of coherence, resilience, and joy, fully present, deeply engaged, and at peace. His letters invite us to transcend distraction and apprehension, and to cultivate meaning even in a world of uncertainty. By embracing these teachings, each individual can transform philosophy into active practice, discovering through purpose the courage to persevere, and through serenity the grace to rejoice.
Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button to support the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an audiobook that could change your life. Now, let's begin. Enjoy.